No Kris Letang, no Erik Karlsson, no problem for the Pittsburgh Penguins. A big 4-1 win over the Calgary Flames. Hunter and I are going to recap that game as well as get you set for tonight's matchup against the Edmonton Oilers right after this.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to another edition of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am one of your hosts, Patrick Damp. You can follow me across all social media platforms at synonym for wet. Joined as always by the one and only Hunter Hodes. You can follow him on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can give our show's Twitter account a follow at LO_Penguins. You can find us on Instagram at LockedOn_Penguins and TikTok at Locked On Penguins. Of course, as always, we appreciate you making us part of your daily routine. Don't forget that we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. And if you're following us on YouTube, which you should be, make sure you hit the notification button. That way you can be among the first to know when we drop our daily Monday through Friday episodes. Pardon the pun, ladies and gentlemen, but the Pittsburgh Penguins smothered the Calgary Flames on Wednesday night in a 4-1 victory. We were a little weary going into this one with the news that Kris Letang was day-to-day, a game-time decision. We were unsure if he was going to play. Given his excellent play over the past couple of weeks, it loomed large over this game. And given the way that the Penguins had kind of a sloppy, slow start the last time these two teams met, there was a little bit of trepidation going into this one that they might let a very valuable 2 points slip away. They did the exact opposite. They were the better team for 60 minutes. They played a tremendously disciplined defensive game, got contributions from Evgeny Malkin, Igor Chinnikov, Brian Rust, and Tommy Novak. Just a really good effort that puts them in a great position as they get set to close out this Western swing over the next few days.
I can't lie, Pat. When I first saw the defensive pairings in this game, I'm like, man, this looks similar to what they had in 2017 without Kris Letang. And the Penguins paid a nice homage to that team because they put up a defensive clinic against the Calgary Flames. They absolutely smothered them for 60 minutes. And there were a few times when the Flames did at least try to push back. There was a couple of times, especially in the second period, where the Flames had the Penguins trapped in their own end. But even during that time, I felt the Penguins did such a great job of limiting Calgary to the outside, not allowing them to get to those high danger areas. The Flames finished this game with only 5 high danger chances at 5-on-5. I can't give enough credit to the 6 defensemen that were on the ice. All of them played especially great, including Parker Wotherspoon. I thought this was one of his best games of the season. Jackson Ivany, I thought was good. Ryan Shea, outside of a couple gaffes on the power play, which, by the way, that unit really needs Erik Karlsson back. But outside of that, he was especially great at 5-on-5. I thought Kulak played well. Again, all the defensemen played really well in this game. And I just loved how they kept everything simple. When you're down your top 2 defensemen, it's imperative that you make quick decisions. You're very simple. You don't try to do too much. That's exactly what the Penguins did. They just kept everything very easy, very simple. Their zone exits were very nice, very clean, and they kind of allowed the forwards to do most of the work. And you saw that was on display last night, man. They absolutely took it to Calgary in this game. Evgeny Malkin gets things started with an awesome goal, and he made all that happen, by the way. He was an absolute bully in the offensive zone, forechecking, getting to loose pucks, gets a nice deflection. His celebration was obviously great, but he made that goal happen because he was such a puck hound and he was such a bully in the offensive zone. Igor Chinnikov, I don't know what else you can say about that release, man. There is no goaltender on the planet that is stopping that thing. I could watch him release the puck 100 times a game. It won't get old. And probably the last time I'm going to complain about a second-round pick being involved in that type of trade. He's been
I will say this. I think it's an old sports cliche that gets overused way too much. though there is plenty of examples where it does work, but there's way more where it doesn't, with the whole, he just, he needs a change of scenery. He's just got to go somewhere else. Igor Chinikov clearly needed a change of scenery, because I remember even back over the summer when the reports surfaced that he wanted to trade out of Columbus, you and I were wary. We were like, if you can get him for cheap, if you can find a way, it's probably going to be difficult in division. But then you look at the way he's performed recently, right. It's probably just, he's probably not as good as they expected him to be. It's probably not going to work. He shows up here and he has been a completely different player.
He's lighting it up. Again, 4 goals in 11 games. He's very consistent with Tommy Novak and Evgeny Malkin. His skating has been through the roof. Again, we touched on his release. He's been really good since coming over, and he gives the Penguins an element with his release that they just don't have for some of their other players. Like, I can't say enough about how well he has played since coming over from Columbus. He also just looks so refreshed since that trade. So again, I know I came on here when the trade happened, Pat. I pushed back a little bit on the second round pick being included. I'm just going to shut up about that, forever.
I know that I did push back against you, but I didn't totally disagree. I mean, it was a big risk, and there's obviously still a lot of season left.
Right.
This could just be a hot streak, but early returns have been great. I also think another part of it is that he's playing with Evgeny Malkin. And yes, is Malkin what he was even a few years ago? No, but compare him to the type of talent that Columbus has, there really isn't anybody of that caliber on the Blue Jackets, though they do have a lot of young talent. We can't dismiss that. They're going to be a team that hopefully in the next couple years starts to improve, and hopefully the Penguins continue to improve, and we can finally have a real true Penguins Blue Jackets rivalry. But at least for now, Chinikov has been great. Speaking of that line, Tommy Novak, that is your guy. And yeah, it's only 9 goals on the season, but it's more than just the production. He has been tremendous this season, and he is doing something that I want to see a lot of these second chance and even some of these younger players do for the next couple of years. They need to make Dan Muse and Kyle Dubas's job extremely difficult, because we know there are a couple players waiting in the wings, whether it's some of the young guys in Wilkes-Barre, Rutger McGroarty coming back. He is making his case to tell the coaching staff and management, don't you dare move me off this line.
100%. And Dustin Wolf has a family, Pat. I mean, good God, Tommy Novak absolutely undressed him with that move. And I saw a lot of weird takes about this player heading into the year. There were some people that weren't sure where he was going to fit in the lineup. Heck, even during the season, especially at the beginning, I saw some calls from fans to scratch him, which I felt was nuts. I did say he needed to be better, but I never once said that he needed to be scratched. I always felt that was insane. He's always been a super crafty, jack of all trades player with very underrated hands. And you saw all of that on display on Wednesday against the Flames. His playmaking, that's where it's at. But don't you dare forget about his release, man. He has some silky hands that are really underrated. And you're also seeing, and I wrote about this for the Hockey News before the season, you're seeing that chemistry between Novak and Malkin as well. I was reading Josh Yohe's piece before we started recording. Malkin told the coaching staff over the summer he wanted to get a chance to play with Novak. I even wrote during the offseason that I think this would make a lot of sense when you mesh their play styles together. And sure enough, it's working really well. And when you have that finisher on the line in Igor Chinikov, it's no wonder that the second line is cooking right now. Now, I think at some point you might see Evgeny Malkin move back to center and Novak to the wing, especially when Malkin, I think, is more ready to do faceoffs. I think one of the reasons he's still on the wing is because he's maybe not comfortable doing faceoffs. But that line, regardless, is cooking, man. And Tommy has been awesome. You can play him anywhere in your top 9. You can play him on your second power play. He has been awesome this year, and I can't say enough about how well he played on Wednesday.
He is certainly up there as one of the best performers against the Calgary Flames on Wednesday night, but we have got so much more that we need to break down from this victory by the Pittsburgh Penguins, giving them a 2-0 record on this road trip up to this point, and we will do that when we get back right after this. Before we do that, though, we've got to tell you about today's first sponsor, and that is Game Time. There is nothing like being near the ice during hockey season. The speed, the hits, the atmosphere, it is unmatched. Watching games at home is great, but being in the building for the game is a completely different experience. The only thing that used to get in the way of that was actually getting tickets, the long queues, the endless screens, and those surprise fees at checkout. That's why the Game Time app gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing NHL tickets and experiences in just a few taps. You guys know, huge fan myself of Game Time. I've used it for just about everything here in Pittsburgh, whether it's Penguins games, Steelers games, Pirates games, and before he rolls his eyes, yes, Hunter, WWE and Sabrina Carpenter tickets did use Game Time for that. But it's a great app. I said it already. Everybody hates those surprise checkout fees. Game Time, it tells you what you're paying right up front. You don't get to the checkout screen and see a bunch of random fees tacked on at the end. You click your seat, you see the price, that's what you're paying. And even though I've been to PPG Paints Arena 1.5 million times, I still like the seat view feature because I like knowing what my view is going to be before I walk into the arena. Game Time, it is the absolute advantage for you when you want to get tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off on Game Time. Back here on the Thursday edition of Locked On Penguins, I'm Patrick Damp, running right alongside my good pal Hunter Hodes, and we got to talk about the goaltender again, man. Little bit of a surprise that they were going with Stuart Skinner 2 games in a row. Shows us that Dan Muse might be moving away from the 1-to-1 rotation of the goaltenders. Obviously, Artur Shilovs will start tonight against the Oilers. We will preview that game in just a little bit, but another really solid outing for him. 947, save percentage, gets another win, looks absolutely rock solid, makes the saves he needs to make. And just, I have to give him a lot of credit because when he first got here, obviously you give any newly acquired player a bit of a grace period. We often forget as sports prognosticators that these are human beings. And when you get traded, especially from Western Canada to Pennsylvania, it's a little bit of a culture shock, a little bit of an adjustment period is needed. But for the last month, he really has settled into a groove. He's a very steady, very poised goaltender. And right now, I continue to say that I think he has taken the mantle as the Penguins 1A.
Yes, he has. And I actually agreed with Dan Muse's decision to start him against Calgary. You start your better goaltender against the weaker team, especially on the first half of a back-to-back. You know the second half is going to be really tough against an Oilers team that has given you fits over the last few years. So go with your strongest lineup that you can with your best goaltender against Calgary before you can go to your 1B goaltender against Edmonton. And again, I'm not trying to crap on Shilovs. I think he has been better as of late, but I just felt like it was the right call to go with Skinner just because he's been a little bit better than Shilovs as of late. And he was really good in this game, as you said. Made the saves he needed to make. He always looked comfortable. He continues to look very confident in the crease. There was that sequence during the game, Pat, where the Flames had the Penguins pinned in their own zone for it felt like 60 to 90 seconds, and he was just sitting there without a goal stick. It was in the corner. Yeah, the Flames were helping him out by shooting the puck wide a few times, but he was still having to sit there for over a minute because the Penguins could not clear the puck. They eventually were able to do that, but still, even off of the couple attempts that went wide, he still was able to make a couple of saves during that sequence. I was surprised the Flames did not score during that time because they really had the Penguins on their heels on that shift. But again, it's another really strong start, and he's been good for the last, 3.5 weeks? Basically, we're approaching a month now of just really strong play from Stuart Skinner. So I can't say enough about that. I know a lot of people wanted to see him start tonight. A homecoming for Edmonton. Tristan Jarry starting against his former team tonight against the Penguins. But you need points. Take them when you can. You're 2-0 now to start the road trip. This game tonight is almost like house money in a way, because even if you lose, you still have an opportunity to go 3-1 on this trip on Sunday against a very bad Vancouver team. So I am totally good with Archer Shilov's starting in this one. I think it made all the sense in the world. So great job for Skinner. We discussed Evgeny Malkin. I thought that line was great. Chinakov's release. Brian Rust gets the goal. It's funny, that wraparound, Pat, I actually thought he was going to score as he was wrapping it around, because there was room on that short side. Dustin Wolf was very slow getting across. I thought he was going to score that way. Puck still ended up going in the back of the net, so no harm, no foul. But I thought he had a little bit of room on that short side because he was a little slow getting across. Nice job by the Penguins to really crash the net there. It was originally given to Sid, but it was then given to Brian Rust. So we discussed Tommy Novak. We've discussed the defensive effort. I just think all in all, this was such a very professional performance, and it goes to show that, while yes, the Flames are not very good, that's clear, this is a good hockey team right now, man. And they are now second place in the Metropolitan Division. And as I tweeted last night, I'll say it here, there is a legit chance that this team gets home ice in the Stanley Cup playoffs if they get in. I can't believe I just said that, considering our expectations going into the season. But they're tied with the Islanders with a game in hand. They're 5 points up on the Caps with 2 games in hand on them, and they're four points up on the Flyers. They had a great night last night. But I can tell you who didn't have a good night, though, and that was Garnett Hathaway.
Yeah, we don't need to spend too much time. We can let our pals over on Locked On Flyers talk about that. That was not great, as one would say, but let's also not put the cart too far ahead of the horse here and talk about having game 1, round 1 at PPG Paints Arena. They have one hell of a schedule coming up once the Olympics are past us.
I'm just throwing it out there for everyone. We're at the end of January. There's a legit chance, but there's still a long way to go. I just wanted to put it out there for everyone.
I'm not disagreeing. There is a legitimate chance for it, but there is something that you said that I do think is a good sticking point and something that's worth talking about right now. Yes, the Calgary Flames are not a very good team. You could see after some of the goals by the Penguins and some of the better shifts that they had, the body language of the Flames was that of, we're just not a good team. We're not going to be able to pull this out. We're not going to be able to make a comeback. But I think a lot more of it is that this is just a good hockey team in Pittsburgh. Yeah. And is it a team that I'm going to sit here and say can go on a run? I'm still deeply, deeply skeptical, because you look at a lot of the other competition across the league, they're not going to stack up to, say, Colorado or Dallas or some of the other teams in the East. But I look at the way this team has played over the last month, and there were moments early in the season where I went, okay, new coach, some new faces, some younger players. They've got that early season sugar rush. You know, there's this new excitement, this new feel. But after a couple of weeks, you got to dig in and play. It's when it becomes the regular season. And they had that little dip in November and December, but they have bounced right back. And I look at a lot of the things that they're doing, and it's all sustainable. Yeah. They're playing really solid hockey. The thing that impressed me most about the game last night, and you hinted at it earlier in the show, they kept it extremely simple. You didn't have Letang. You have not had Karlsson for a few games. They weren't trying to do too much. High percentage passes out of the defensive zone. They weren't trying to do too much in the offensive zone. They took what the Flames gave them and they capitalized when they needed to. These are all hallmarks of a team that are doing things that, the longer this season goes, barring injury, barring some sort of slump, I don't really see it stopping.
I said this to JD Young of Locked On Sharks last night, because he tweeted me a really funny tweet. Like, he was like, I don't know how they're doing this. And I just simply said, like, they're just kicking teams' asses at the end of the day. That is what they have been doing in a lot of these wins. And there's nothing fluky about it. They're not on a PDO bender. They're not on a goaltending bender. They are just kicking people's asses. The process is there. The data continues to show that this team is above average in shot attempts per 60, expected goal share, scoring chances, high danger chances. Their defensive metrics also continue to improve. And they're playing like a good team that is capable of making the Stanley Cup playoffs. There is nothing fluky about what they are doing. And that, I think, is the best part about this season so far, is that they're also just so much fun to watch compared to the last couple of years. You and I have said that a lot, that they're a breath of fresh air. I can't say enough about the job that Dan Muse is doing. If he is able to guide this team to the playoffs, I think he is going to get consideration for Jack Adams. I don't think he is going to win it, because when you see what John Cooper is doing and when you see what Jared Bednar is doing in their respective places, Colorado and Tampa, I think they probably are going to have better cases. But I do think Dan Muse is going to get consideration. And I do think you will also see Kyle Dubas get GM of the Year consideration, as my co-host Kelsey Cermax wrote for the Hockey News. Well, my co-editor, I should say, Kelsey Cermax wrote for the Hockey News. Pardon me on that. But again, man, it's just, they're so fun to watch. Everything about the process is very much there, and they're getting the results. We'll see if it can carry over tonight against a team that is kind of been their boogeyman over the last few years, Pat. So that's a nice little segue to the final segment.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the segue, but unfortunately, old Damp here's got to hit the brakes and turn the wheel real quick, because I got to respond to the Kyle Dubas part of it. I don't really know if there's another GM in the league right now that you can say has a better case than Kyle Dubas. Simply, and I know that we're going to get the comments, you're glazing Kyle Dubas, you're putting the black and gold goggles on and yada, yada. But take this from a 1,000-foot view. This team was not expected to be good. They weren't expected to be horrible. They weren't going to be bottom of the barrel, Gavin McKenna sweepstakes, even though a lot of people wanted that.
Some people thought they were. Some people.
But then they have been not just in the playoff race, they have been in the race for a top 3 spot in the Metro pretty much the entire season, save for a few weeks. You couple that with they've got so many draft picks. They've got a rapidly improved farm system. And on top of all of that, they have got some of the most cap space in the entire league. This is a really damn good blueprint. It should it end up working out for the rest of the league, of how you can take a team that had years and years of success and keep them going without really having to scale that far back. Now, granted, missed the playoffs the last couple years. They've had some slips and stumbles, but I would take this over 5, 6, 7 years of, don't worry, it's coming. Don't worry, it's coming. Don't worry, it's coming. Oh, we're almost there. We're almost there. Granted, this could all fall apart within the next couple of weeks, but should they stay on this track, I do think that both Muse and Dubas are going to have their names on ballots come the end of the year when we get closer to the NHL awards. So
I agree.
They both deserve a ton of credit for this season.
100%. Let's just see again, Pat. This will be game 50 tonight. After tonight, you have 32 games left. Let's see if you can keep it up. Going into the Olympic break is going to be huge. They have 7 more games left before the Olympic break. Let's see how they go into that, because when the NHL season resumes at the end of February, I'm going to be curious to see, are they going to stay in that top 3 spot in the Metro? Are they going to, fall off a little bit? Again, time will tell, but hey, ever since the Christmas break, this team has been firing on all cylinders, looking like the team we saw for the first month and a half of the season. And I'm having a blast. This is a lot of fun to watch.
And here's the hoping that it'll continue tonight, because the Penguins are right back in action against, as Hunter said, one of their boogeymen, the Edmonton Oilers. They will take them on tonight, and Hunter and I are going to get you prepared for that game when we come back right after this. Closing out the Thursday edition of Locked On Penguins, I'm Patrick Damp, joined by the one and only Hunter Hodes. Pittsburgh Penguins, Edmonton Oilers, 9 o'clock tonight. more late night hockey for that sicko that I do this show with when the Penguins take on the Oilers. And there's no two ways about this. The Penguins have not matched up well against the Edmonton Oilers in the past few years, but go ahead and get in line, Pittsburgh Penguins. You are one of many teams who have not matched up well against the Edmonton Oilers. There's a reason they have been to back-to-back Stanley Cup finals. There is a reason that they have been one of the best teams in the Western Conference for the last few years. And it all starts with number 97, the super weapon, Connor McDavid, the unquestionable best player on the planet, but probably not going to be without the Robin to his Batman, Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah, it does not look like Leon is going to be playing in this game. He is still attending to a family matter in Germany. So again, all the best to him as he continues to deal with that situation. He's been on a leave of absence for a little bit, but I will say this is a major loss for the Oilers. We all know how great Draisaitl is, 25 goals, 67 points in 48 games. He gives the Oilers, that 1-2 legendary punch down the middle. They can also put him with McDavid if they want to, and they're trailing in games. They love doing that, but not having Leon for this game is going to be really tough considering how great he has been this year. But you said it, man. Connor McDavid, best player on the planet. It's going to take every player on the ice to slow him down. I mean, he's putting up video game numbers again this year. 30 goals, 85 points in 51 games. When he gets a burst of speed coming up the ice, good luck. We saw it in Pittsburgh last month when the Oilers won 6-4. There's just not much you can do when he gets a head of steam on you. Literally, good luck everybody else. That really is how it is, because he's just such a weapon in the numerous ways that he can beat you. So especially if they don't have Letang or Karlsson again tonight, TBD on that. Dan Muse is going to speak to the media, I think around 7 p.m. Eastern time for his pregame. So we'll have to see if Letang or Karlsson are viable options for this one. But if they're not, it's going to take a full team effort from all the defensemen. We're going to have to see the blueprint, what we saw last night on Wednesday against Edmonton. You're going to have to keep things very simple, very quick, especially when McDavid is out there. But even without him, Zach Hyman's been getting hot as of late. 6 goals in his last 6 games. The tap-in merchant, as I like to call him, around the net, but he's still been very good as of late. We all know how great Bouchard is from the point, offensively, that is. He's not good in his own zone, but offensively, he is very good. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, 40 points in 42 games this year. Already discussed Hyman. Pod Karlsson has 12 goals and 23 points this year. But again, man, if you're not slowing down Connor McDavid, you're not going to do a good job to win this game. I do want to see the PK also continue to play well. PK has been awesome over the last few weeks, but they got burned pretty badly against that Oilers power play back in December when Connor and Leon just did their thing. And I know Leon's not going to be out there, it looks like, for this one, but they still got Connor. They still got Bouchard. They still got Hyman. They still got Nugent-Hopkins. They can still zip that puck around like it's no one's business. So I think the PK, definitely a big one tonight. And I do want to see the power play, of course, improve. And then old friend Tristan Jarry rattle his cage a little bit. We've seen when you get in his grill a little bit here, gets off his game a little bit. If you can get to him early, also, you and I have talked about that a lot when he was a Penguin. If you get to him early, maybe he has an off night. There you go. So just a few keys for this one, but especially on the second half of a back-to-back with travel, it all comes down to playing simple, playing very clean. Just honestly, like you did last night, but even more so, especially on the second half of a back-to-back.
That's the biggest key is you played last night. You got a big win. You have essentially rendered this game not meaningless because anytime points are available, you want to continue to stack them, especially when you're playing a Western Conference team, but still in a battle for the Eastern Conference when it is so log jammed. But at the end of the day, this does have to be borderline boring hockey tonight. You have to just do everything simple, everything basic. Don't try to do too much. Don't try to make the complicated pass. Take the easy play. And the thing is, I say this every time the Penguins or any team plays a team like Edmonton. I'm going to do my usual crossover comparison here to basketball where it's the Shaq and Kobe Lakers. The only difference now is you've got Kobe and not Shaq with Draisaitl out. The usual idea is that one of those two are going to get their cookies. That one of those two is going to put up points. You can't let the other also kill you. So while McDavid is going to do McDavid things, you really have to do what I also like to call the Brian Dumoulin defense of him. When Brian Dumoulin was at his best as a Penguin, he basically looked at McDavid and went, you want to skate a million miles on the outside? You go right ahead. You want to skate yourself all the way into the corner? You can have the corner. I'm not going to let you have the middle of the ice. Yeah. You can let McDavid do circles around the offensive zone. Keep him out of the middle. Make sure you're not losing track of anybody who might get open. And if he burns you because he's Connor McDavid, tip that cap. You're Connor McDavid. You do it to everybody. But don't give him anything easy. Make him have to earn it. And you beat me to it. The guy in net, Tristan Jarry. You make him give up a soft one. You get in his kitchen a little bit. We've seen it for quite some time. Doesn't really like that. So while it is not a who cares, whatever happens game, given that they started this trip really well, you're playing with a little bit of house money tonight. If you can get a point or two out of this, even better. But they have served themselves well to the point where this isn't that much of a must-win game.
Right. Like, you go 3-1 on this trip, you beat Vancouver, you lose to Edmonton. Okay, no harm, no foul. You still got 6 out of 8 points overall, and that's a successful trip. But say, Pat, you get a point tonight. Say you still lose in overtime, but then you beat Vancouver. 3-0-1, 7 out of 8 points. Yeah, I know. Technically, you're still 3-1 overall, but you got 7 out of 8 points. That's also huge. So, yeah, this game tonight is a little bit of bonus. If you win it, obviously that's even better because you're going up against a team that is going to make the playoffs and you're playing against the best player on the planet. But it's still going to be by far the toughest game of this trip, considering the situation, considering who they're going up against. So I'm just curious to see how they look. If you lose, not the end of the world, just as long as you beat Vancouver on Sunday. They did snap their 11-game losing streak to Washington last night. So we don't have to worry about that one on Sunday, Pat, where the Vancouver would be on a potential 12 to 13 game losing streak and they'd be playing the Penguins. No, they got that off their backs. They've won a game. So no harm, no foul. But this is still a game where, again, discipline is going to be really key in this one. And I do want to see Artur Shilov's play even more consistent at the start of games. We talked about how well he has played at the end of games, making some big saves, in the third, in overtime, but just bring that same consistency to the start of the first period. He does that. I think he could be aligned to hopefully have a even better night tonight.
And I will close the show on this. Yes, we're saying all this stuff about points and situations and all that, but going up against the two-time Western Conference champion, see how you stack up.
Yeah.
Play with a little bit of pride. See where you're at. If you can take it to this Edmonton team, that can give you a lift going into the last couple weeks before the Olympic break. But we will see what happens tonight against the Edmonton Oilers. 9 o'clock Eastern time at Rogers Place in Edmonton. You can catch the game on Sportsnet Pittsburgh. And when it's done on Friday, Hunter and I are going to be back to recap it, get you set for the Sunday game against the Canucks, and Fan Take Friday is back. So keep your eyes on our YouTube channel. We'll have a new poll out and the comments will be open for you to drop your hot takes, questions, and everything in between. So stay tuned for that. But for now, for Hunter Hodes, I am Patrick Damp. Thank you as always for tuning in, and we will be back on Friday.